So this is my blog about me starting over. I was in banking for 25 years and I recently started teaching. So the title of it is You're Never Too Old to Start Over. In the African American culture, we are taught to get a good job, and if you get that good job, you stick with it. We are taught to work hard. We use that saying, God won't put more in you than you can bear. Pray about it, He'll give you strength. You are getting paid money with good benefits. And even when things get hard, it's okay. God bless you with it. You better be thankful. You don't quit because someone else would love to have that job. And for 22 years, that's exactly what I did. I was taught to give my best at whatever I did. I went to work and I always gave 100%. Was I a perfect employee? No. I made mistakes, but I learned from my mistakes. I didn't repeat those same mistakes again. And prior to my current job, I worked at another financial institution for almost 3 years, and the last one for a little bit over 22 years. I love what I did, and I love my customers. I love working with customers and helping them repair credit. I enjoy going to the classrooms and educating children about banking. I love volunteering and being a part of the community. My last years of employment were no longer a pleasure going to work each day. I had people that began to lie. I would say, pull the cameras, or let's have a joint discussion. Those requests were never happened. Things are different in corporate America. A lot of times, management will identify a strong African American woman that speaks up for herself as defiant. And if a man does it, that man is a leader. My requests were always ignored. Management would say, why would this person lie on you? People have been lying on people since the days of Jesus. Folks lie on innocent people every day. Innocent people are in jail for someone's lies because they don't want the blame to be on them. And if a person wants the truth, he or she can, but the truth has to want to be sought. I had a former manager that was worried about staff not liking him. And I remember saying to him, people didn't like Jesus. Everyone wasn't going to like him, and who was I to think that they wouldn't lie on me? I continued to accept the behavior because some of the things I've been taught. It was a good job. I've been there a long time. I was making good money. I had seniority when it came to taking vacations. I had great benefits. I put up with toxicity longer than I should have for those reasons. The write-ups were becoming more frequent and the accusations becoming worse. There were plenty of chances and reasons that I should have left, but I was complacent. Things would get good again. I forget about the bad things or lies being told until it happened again. I had become accustomed to the toxic behavior. I feel that God had to allow things to get extremely bad and to that point in order for Him to get my attention for me to leave. If things had not have gotten to that point, I would have continued to stay because I wanted to prove that I was no quitter. November 2021, I submitted an internal application. That was my first time applying for anything different because I truly loved what I did. I didn't get the job, and at the time of the year, first of the year, I began to apply in the South Haven and Memphis area at other financial institutions. I applied for over 20 different positions. Some institutions had 4 rounds of interviews, and I would make it to the last interview, but I wasn't getting the job. I knew that within 25 years of banking experience, I was qualified. I'd even made it to the last candidate on some of the interviews. I got discouraged and I stopped applying. I was tired of being told no, and I prayed and asked God to ask Him to give me peace. He gave me peace, but it was not the way I expected. Last year, I was having excruciating pain in my shoulder. I began going to physical therapy for quite some time. I received 3 cortisone shots in my shoulder, and my doctor said that I needed to have an MRI. It wasn't good that my shoulder wasn't healing, and the MRI revealed a tear. On May 24, 2022, I had shoulder surgery, and I was off work. It was going to be at least 6 weeks, and I dreaded having the surgery, but I needed a mental break. He gave me the peace that I asked for in prayer, and when you pray, you better be specific. As I was getting closer to time for me to return to work, I told God I wanted Him to open a door for me, and I needed a fresh start. I really wanted to move to another area to work, and one day during prayer, God spoke to me and said, teach. It wasn't shocking because I have family that are educators, and I was totally at peace with it. Another reason was conversations that I had with my therapist and other friends. In one of my therapy sessions, Sandy told me, if you can't change the world that you're in, you change your world. Some dear friends and my daughter told me that I should think about a career change. I said, no, I like banking. And a few days before God spoke to me, one of my longtime friends had changed careers as well. She made a Facebook post and said, who said that you can't change careers after 40? And when God spoke to me that day, I said, God, you were trying to tell me then, but I wasn't listening. I had to have this surgery for you to clear my mind and speak to me. And once I said yes to him, he began opening doors and lining everything up in his will. I understood then why I was getting all those no's on those banking applications. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you. Those bank jobs were not the plans that he had for me. I knew I wanted to teach English, and with my degree not being in education, I would have to do the alternate route. And God began to place names of people I knew in education. He allowed me to speak to only certain people about the transitioning. It wasn't something that I wanted to get around the bank that I was job searching. And he gave me the names of 4 individuals that I could use for references that would keep everything confidential. I began to apply for jobs, permanent substitute in the Tupelo School District, and I even had an interview for it. And one of my friends told me about Florida needing teachers and how the pay worked, and I decided to apply. I was to return to work from FMLA the first week of July, but my return doctor's appointment follow-up was changed. I went to pick up my paperwork and inquired when my appointment would be with the nurse practitioner. I missed her phone calls due to physical therapy, and I just assumed they were courtesy calls. With me missing the calls, I had to get a later appointment, and that day I was in tears. I said, God, I did not ask for these appointments to be changed. The bank is going to think I'm faking. This is another 3 weeks before I go to work, and my short-term disability had been approved. What am I going to do? I was frantic. I didn't know what God had in store for me. Again, his will is not my will. Later, I realized why the change occurred. With my appointment being changed, it allowed me to drive to Florida to get my drug test, fingerprinting done, and other paperwork for the school district. I was offered the job, and all kind of emotions ran through my mind. The first call I made was to my children. I got them on a 4-way call, and I told them about the job offer, and they told me to take it. They said I needed this for me, and they were correct. I never in my life thought I'd move. I love to travel, but I assumed that I lived in Mississippi all my life. I'd encouraged my children to move when they graduated if that's what they desired. I was hesitant to take the job because I had never left home. I'm 45 and never lived alone. I had my oldest daughter at 18. And when I graduated from high school, I commuted back and forth to Oxford for 2 years. Then my ex-husband and I got married. We were married almost 12 years. And after we divorced, I moved back in with my parents. It was scary to think about relocating, leaving my home, my family, my friends behind. My children were right. I needed to do this. And I did this for me. I accepted the job and everything moved fast. I went to work on July the 14th and I quit later that day. It was an immediate weight lifted off of my shoulders. And if you've ever been mentally drained about anything, you know the feeling of exhilaration when you let it go. This only gave me about 2.5 weeks to get everything together before I had to leave. I found an apartment. It's a great part of town, and it's only about 8 miles away from the school. And my dad agreed to drive my things to Florida in a U-Haul, and this was all a blessing. When the school made it official, I made a post on my social media pages, and one of my former coworkers shared a post. And the ironic thing is, I used to be her after-school camp leader when she was in elementary school. And that day, God brought to my remembrance all the jobs that I'd held. My first job was babysitting for families. And when I was a teenager, my first job was what I'd had. And when I was a teenager, my first job was with the city of Tupelo as an after-school counselor. As stated previously, I went to the schools and taught about financial literacy. I was a Sunday school teacher at church for years. I was a mentor at THS when they had their mentorship program for troubled youth and teenage pregnancy. I served as a board member for AEE, that's Association for Education Excellence, for several years. It awarded grants to teachers to do innovative things in their classroom. And after my time was served, I continued to read the grants each year. God said, you might have gone about teaching in a different way of getting there, but you are now walking in your purpose. And this is what you are called to do. Even though this transition, new state, new career move was scary, it was one of the best things I could have done in my life for myself. For over half of my life, all I've known is banking, and I had to redirect my thinking to learn something new. School began on August the 4th, and if you've seen my stories on social media, you will hear me say the students referring to me as Miss Long. That's because on my birthday in June, I did 2 things for me. One was change my last name back to Long. I've had 3 different lawyers from the time of my divorce up until now. I didn't know to ask the previous 2, but I would have assumed they would have asked me. It wasn't if I had ever been divorced before, and I didn't know to specifically ask for the request. With my last attorney, I made sure to ask him to put that in place for me going back to Carmen Long. It wasn't finalized in my paperwork until November 2020. And if you know me, I'm always taking trips. I had 3 different international trips. I couldn't change my passport. I had my last one this year in February, and I want to do something special and memorable for me this year. The second thing for my birthday was getting a sun tattoo. The sun tattoo is symbolic to me. It represents my personality and starting over. I had no idea in June that my life would be starting a new chapter a month later. After you've been in a season of rain, you're happy for the sun to come out. The sun is strong and powerful. This morning, I got up at 5 a.m. to see the sunrise on the beach in the greatest state of Florida. Sunrises are a beautiful thing. They represent a new day and a new beginning. Sometimes we have to create our own sunsets. Don't get complacent on that job or relationship. If you know you deserve better, you should go for it. Regardless of what happened the day before or in your past, I want you to remember this. You are never too old to start over. Have a good one.